Association was founded. Venerable Wu Chin has been studying and teaching Buddhism since then. Around the year 2011, she began focusing on teaching on the book Changing Destiny, using the commentary by her teacher to help others understand the principles and methods, hoping that they will receive these benefits in their lives. Besides teaching Buddhism, Venerable Wu Chin is very much involved with multicultural activities in Toowoomba. One of her primary tasks is organising the Saturday's Friendship Dinner. This dinner is an icon of the community, gathering over meals and stories since 2011. So welcome, Wu Chin. We also have John Walker. John Walker is a member of the Toowoomba Baha'i community and a former Chief Executive Officer of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Australia Incorporated. Professionally, he's a certified practicing accountant and currently a board member of the Gundia Aboriginal Health Corporation. So welcome forward, John. And last but not least, I apologise, I've got this one here. We have Dr. Uma Kumar, a doctor for 23 years. She's a director and local representative for the Heartfulness Institute and a member of the Peace Committee. So please welcome forward Dr. Uma. And I'll now hand over to Ari to run the session.
They give me a microphone, so I move to the lectern. Okay. We're all trained. So today's session is about healing the world. And when we were discussing this, putting this one together, there's a Jewish philosophy called Tikkun Olam, which is healing the world. And it comes from the Kabbalistic writings of Rabbi Lura, who wrote a book or a series of books called the Zohar. And so it's very much a spiritual thing. In modern days, it has moved to mean social justice, social welfare, doing what's right, and standing up for people. So in America, where a lot of the Jewish community is conservative, they, as in conservative Judaism, not as in conservative people, like little c, not big C, or big C, not little c, they become part of their parlance. So when they go to Israel, their first question is, how do you say Tikkun Olam in Hebrew? And it's quite amusing to those of us who are Jewish. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each person is going to speak for about 10 minutes on personal experiences of them healing the world relating to their faith and to their generations, because we tried to get all generations since World War II involved. So we will start with Lena. So Lena, if you want to take the chair and go for it.
So hello everyone, my name is Lena. I described before, I'm the founder of a small organisation called Strive Connecting. And so I'll start with Strive Connecting. As a young person coming from Afghanistan, I was born there and I moved to Australia with my family around 8 years ago. And so for me, reflecting on my personal journey coming to Toowoomba, it was such a welcoming town. To me, like, it was the most amazing place, like coming from Afghanistan, where obviously it was quite dangerous for females, coming to Australia, Toowoomba, it was really lovely and nice. But once I started getting involved with more youth work and these discussions around peace and harmony and getting involved with regional council and their youth leaders, I had this session and I remember we were discussing some issues. And I remember what this one friend of mine got up there, and I guess it was a moment that I'll always remember in my life and was the biggest reason why I started Strive Connecting. So the girl up there, she kind of talked about her own personal experience, and what kind of made me shocked was how different that was compared to mine. So she talked about how the racism she faced in the school she went to, considering the school was very multicultural and diverse. She was talking about all her experiences and how that kind of reflected the way she viewed Toowoomba very, very differently, as a place that she didn't actually fit in, as a place where she couldn't actually call home. And so that was a big inspiration for me to really start Strive Connecting. So a big part of my organisation is to really spread the word about starting the conversation. Similar to peace and harmony and a lot of the work Pure Land does, a big part of all these issues that we have in the world is a matter of silent conversation. Starting with a talk with someone who has a completely different background to you, different perspective to you. Because I feel like a lot of us tend to look at each other and say, oh, she's a completely different race to me. We're very different. We come from so many different backgrounds. We come from so many different countries. But I feel like the one thing that really connects us together is the fact that we're all humans. And whether we believe in God or not, we've been put on this planet for a reason, for a purpose, and I think it's really important to connect through those things. So yeah, and through Strive Connecting, I've been able to engage young people in that conversation starting, especially around that issue of racism, getting more young people to kind of create this almost connecting through our differences. And that's our motto, connecting through our differences, whether it is our cultures, our backgrounds, our religions. It all really brings us together when we really think about it. And so back to healing our world, for me, Strive Connecting was definitely the first aspect of that, healing the world slowly. And then getting involved with TYPG was also a big part of it, the peace building and harmony work. And I would say for me, as a young person on this panel, I feel like my experience would be very different to young people, but I'm here to reflect them. And for me, in the current world we're in right now, there are definitely many, many issues, whether it's the wars and conflict, and even right now, the war between Israel and Palestine. That's something that has personally affected me as well. Not only is it in the Middle East, which is my home, but it's also something that when you think about it, as someone who's an advocate like myself and the work I do with peace building, it's something that I've been seeing on the news and all these debates. And when I think about it, when I was asked to be on this panel today, I was like, I definitely have to mention Israel and Palestine. There's this big discussion with Israel and Palestine, and this big divide that has been created over so many years, for over 70 plus years of this conflict and war. And to me, from my perspective, I'm looking at all the children, all the families, and all the women who are stuck in Palestine, who don't have the right to education. They don't even know if they'll live another day because of all the bombing. And similarly in Israel, I know there are a lot of families who are being affected by the issue. And so looking at kind of what's going on in the world right now, it definitely looks very scary, but I think it definitely is a matter of discussion and dialogue. And then going over to another country like Afghanistan, for example, similar issues going on. Afghanistan and Palestine is so far away, and yet they face such similar issues. Women are not allowed to study or go to school after primary school. It's so hard for them to get that education. They're stuck at home. While there's so many, while the guys, although they're out walking around, they have that influence of the Taliban, so created almost into monsters. And so we have all these issues around the world. And when I thought about it, for me, it's almost like creating, making my impact in smaller steps. So from a young person's perspective, for me, it's always been taking those little steps. So with healing the world, a point that I wanted to bring is a lot of times when we look at those issues, like on the TV, we look at Palestine, Israel, we look at Afghanistan, we look at Yemen, where there's a big humanitarian crisis where children don't have water or food, they don't know what's going on, there's corruption in governments. It's a matter of looking within ourselves, I believe. It's a matter of looking at within ourselves and being the change we want to see in the world, which is an amazing quote by Mahatma Gandhi, which I'm sure you guys have all heard it, and it's a quote we hear all the time. But I feel like if we really break that quote down, be the change you want to see in the world, it really does play a really important role in healing the world. It's a matter of being kind, taking steps every day to kind of remove that prejudice. Because I feel like a lot of times there's also internalized racism, internalized discrimination within us. Which is totally fine, because I'm sure growing up, we've all had so many different experiences, whether it's a place that we've grown up with or certain beliefs that our parents have had. I think it's a matter of sitting down and reflecting to yourselves, being like, this is the world we're in, these are the issues that we face. But I think being individually, creating those impacts and being a kind person, smiling, starting these discussions, really do make a difference, because these are the smaller steps that we take. Another point I wanted to bring was even young people, like I just came from the conference, I was emceeing the youth conference, that just finished. I think it's so important, and I have so much faith in our community here in Toowoomba, that there were so many young people over there talking about these issues. They are so informed. They are so capable of doing things, making an impact, and that really, really made me feel so happy within myself, because a lot of my journey in advocacy and volunteering has come from my background, has come from the fact that in my religion we're taught to always help, to always be in assistance to anyone we can. With my culture, in Afghan culture, we're always there helping each other and being there for everyone. And even just coming to Australia, I think feeling welcomed here, I was like, it definitely played a big contributing factor to my advocacy and my volunteering. And so hearing the stories in the youth conference was very, very special to me. And it puts a lot of faith in me, in how Toowoomba's going to look in the future as the leaders, as people who will be taking over the country, who's going to be the doctors and the police and the nurses. It's very, very exciting a future. So I want to assure you all that the youth are definitely informed about the issues. They're definitely taking action and doing what they can. But I have to mention that I think the biggest thing for young people when it comes to peace building and harmony and healing the world with that context is that a lot of times, like in the youth conference, it's a lot like almost like very, very small compared to this, because I'm sure you're all very informed. I'm sure you're all here to learn so many new things. But I think in the youth conference, it's almost a few people who are invited. And although we promote it so much, there's so many young people who are too scared to come to these conferences, who are too scared to come and talk about these issues because they believe that their voices aren't valued or heard. Or no matter how many discussions that they have, the politicians and journalists up there and commentators who are constantly debating over these issues, who are constantly talking about how they're going to change the world, and they're all debating and arguing with each other, and yet there's no change. And so they believe that their opinion and their voice will never be heard. And we made it a big focus in the youth conference to ensure the youth that their voice is definitely heard. I'm obviously part of the Toowoomba Youth Peace Group, which runs by Pure Land Learning. They do some incredible work. We organise these conferences. We get involved in discussions. And earlier this year, I was in Singapore and Malaysia, talking to international leaders, to international advocates, to different organisations, to see how they do work with young people, how they kind of implement and amplify voices of young people. And so it's really interesting when you do see it in like an international context as well, how other countries are looking to get their youth involved and start these discussions. Because I strongly believe, and this was for me personally as well, I got involved with youth advocating and volunteering from a very young age. I think for me that was very, very special. It has made me the person I am today. I'm very much informed about what goes on in the world, but I also know that as a young person who has been able to talk to so many different people, who's had that perspective and these deep discussions with different people from around the world, I've gained so much knowledge and so much to me and my personality, and as a way that I've been able to develop my morals and values in everything. So I would have to say that I urge everyone here, whether you're a community leader for a cultural group or you're the head of a youth group or anything, I say that get your young people involved in these discussions. Get them, make them the leaders, make them lead a conference or start these discussions or get them to organize something, because they definitely have the capability, they have the passion for it. It's a matter of putting them forward, ensuring that they know that they have a voice, and getting them forward ahead, giving them the resources and that start to their journey of exploring not themselves, but also the world. And I think all of that plays a big role in healing the world. I think if we help to nurture these youth, give them a voice, show them the world, they'll be able to see the issues. They'll be able to take actionable steps to really make an impact, because we're all in this world for a reason. We're all here to play a contributing role. And if we start to realize that consciously, that we play an important role, we start to reflect, we start to think about the impact that we have, whether it's the school that we go to or the university or it's a youth group that we're part of.
Your time is up.
Oh no!
But we can come back to that in question time if we
Definitely.
do have time.
Well, it
Thank
was
you
lovely
very
talking to you
much.
all.
So next will be Dylan.
Thank you. I also feel that I'm a young person on this panel, but I feel like everybody feels like they're a young person, and everybody to the left of them here, I guess, is young, or if we were sitting in generations, is young. Anyway, healing, obviously, very broad term, healing the world. How could you possibly answer a question like that? You know, is it physical healing, resolution of trauma, freeing of a guilty conscience, that sort of stuff? I think, you know, healing has an aspect of wholeness to it, right? As a reunion or unity within an individual, within their relationships with others, to the world around us, and ultimately to a sense of meaning or purpose, right? Which we might call God. Ultimately, healing, I think, is needed when sickness arises, or a sickness, or a kind of disruption of normal processes, perhaps, a separation from health. My generation, Y, the Millennials, when we consider perhaps the bodies we inhabit, the world we inhabit, there are several ruptures, I think, which rise to the fore and shape our priorities. And I believe 3 of the greatest concerns for my generation are climate change, acceptance and inclusion, and the cost of living. So I want to briefly address at least the first 2 of these concerns, and ways that perhaps Gen Y is working for healing in these areas. So climate change is the #1 concern for Generation Y. Primarily, we're concerned with our impact on the environment as a generation. That is, you know, what kind of footprint we have individually and as a generation, with what kind of world we'll leave. Will it be livable and sustainable for those who come after us? Effective action on climate change is a driving force behind my generation's apathy toward and disengagement from politics and religion, you know, which are mostly seen as denying, hindering, or not engaging enough. And yet, despite this, as we heard, you're Zoomer, right? A Zoomer, the Generation Z.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, yes,
We
Lena.
call Generation Z.
Yeah, sure. One of the, you know, with Z and Y particularly, I've read deeply engaged, I know for myself, very deeply engaged with political issues, right? Even though maybe not a part of a political establishment. Gen Y is often quite angry and disappointed that more is not being done. But they're also very motivated to learn more, to contribute more than many of the generations before them. Contributing towards the healing of the world then in response to climate change is probably Gen Y's greatest goal. Our choice of products, our lifestyles, how we go about our work in our workplaces, these are all integrated things for us. We think about climate change in all of these areas. And it speaks to perhaps Gen Y's unified vision of life, a collaborative approach to decision making, where a person and what they do and where they are, these are not individual things, but are a unified whole, you know, an inescapable system in which we live and move and have our being. Our goal, if any, as a whole generation perhaps, the mark we would wish to leave is enough room for everybody else to also leave theirs. So on acceptance and inclusion and authenticity, perhaps, and I'm going to talk about politics briefly here, so, you know, be that as it may. There are no question that Gen Y is more inclusive and accepting than previous generations. This is shown in a number of ways, especially through socially liberal, small l, and politically left stances towards issues of inclusion and acceptance. Although Gen Y generally has low confidence in political institutions, you know, we generally find them to be a little bit inauthentic, a bit dishonest and media-driven, we are very engaged with issues, and those who do engage with politics, for instance, at the last federal elections was 62% Labor, Greens and Independents in 2016 and 75% in 2022, and we are now the largest voting bloc, right? 75% of voting towards Labor, the Greens, and Independents. This is primarily, I would say, due to these parties' action or calls to action on those areas that we find most concerning, right? Climate change, inclusion, and cost of living. For most, however, due to perceived inauthenticity, disengagement with political parties is common. Instead, Gen Y prefers to engage with causes and volunteers with, promotes and gives towards grassroots charities, social and sporting clubs, other non-political institutions which align with our values and make a difference to people's lives, both locally and internationally. We're a global generation. We grew up on the internet. Gen Y engages with altruistic, seasonal work housed in an inclusive culture with measurable goals. This is our way of healing the world. Perhaps another way that we differentiate ourselves from generations prior to us, in some way, primarily perhaps from our parents, who are mostly baby boomers, is the areas of inclusion and acceptance in parenting. We often have a very different parenting style. Obviously, I have to speak in generalities here, but you get the idea, right? Gen Y parents are very engaged with their children. They spend more time with their children, showing greater interest in their lives and developments. Gen Y fathers, like myself, do a lot of housework. I do the shopping, the cooking, the washing, the ironing. Gen Y parents are more likely to live and play and parent alongside their children, discovering success and failure with them, rather than imposing the conditions of success on them from a distance, as was, the case for many of us as children. Following along from this, Gen Y parents are collaborative, wanting their children to reflect and express themselves in authentic and self-driven ways. So Gen Y households are like little democracies, with everybody contributing to the family unit. Gen Y parents are often more conscious of the quality of food they give to their children. And while parenting is complicated, this collaborative and nurturing approach can, in many cases, lead to very healthier outcomes for children than previous, more authoritarian models. Healthier, emotionally stable, self-realized children mean healthier adults, which means a healthier society. Finally, I'd like to make some notes about Gen Y and religion, because, of course, it relates to us here today and to the previous points. Gen Y is very disengaged from institutional religion. It tends to be because either religion holds to conservative social stances regarding the role of women or human sexuality in general, or because it offers only celestial promises but is disengaged from making a meaningful experience with the world, here and now, with its struggles. Gen Y wants religion which unites people despite difference, which works for concrete individual and community healing, here and now. So Gen Y should be, technically, interested in religion which is both inclusive and grounded, which is intentionally engaged in its local community and internationally in mission and service. So in conclusion, Gen Y, as a generation, struggles to engage with self-focused institutions or, internal institutional stuff, outdated social attitudes and cultural norms, which were more accessible to previous generations, things like marriage, housing and jobs, secure jobs. It's not due to apathy that we're disengaged. Indeed, we're more engaged on issues like this than ever, but due to powerlessness within these institutions. We'd be in leadership, many of us of my generation, if we were asked, or if we were invited, or if we're supported. What point is there, we might ask, as a generation participating in institutions, which aren't interested in us, which don't bring healing, but which rather continue to divide people and exploit communities? At a deeper level, perhaps, Gen Y has a systems-based mindset, which acknowledges the interrelated nature of life, faith, and ethical action. And this is why Gen Y prefers to engage in grassroots focused, seasonal volunteering and charitable work, which impacts local communities and international humanitarian crises. You know, I'm perhaps a little different from my generation in that I am part of institutions, but I prefer to be in part of those institutions in my own, you know, in my own way as a representative of my generation, advocating for those issues which we find most important.
Thank you, Dylan. The Venerable Wu Chin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. When we look at the topic, healing the world, I would like to share some ideas and teachings that our late teacher, Venerable Master Chin Kong, had mentioned or taught. We were looking at healing the world more of like, if you look at Confucianism, I'd always say like the whole world is made up of different nations. And in each nation, there's all this society or community groups. And then if you break it down further, it's made up of family units, like many of us have mentioned in the talk. And then finally, the individual, the self-cultivation. So for us, often you'll be focusing on the education aspect of trying to heal ourselves and then heal the world. So we'll be, for us, our teacher has been very focused on education. For he felt that early childhood education, from like as little as they could come to school, maybe like that 3 years old or 3.5, and then gradually going to the primary education, to the secondary, and so on. So we at Pure Land will be focused on learning the classics, the sages' teachings, 圣贤的教诲, you know, for the children from very young age, and teaching them how to be filial to their parents and elders, as well as their teachers around them. For we felt very deeply that when a person can truly love their parents and their elders around them, their love can be then expanded to outside the family and to the world around them. So from a young age, we'll be teaching the little ones. Some of them will be bringing slippers to their parents. And I was watching one video, one of our Venerable was showing me about the children's homework. And a little girl about 3 years old, she was trying to put on the socks for her mom. And I think that her mom chose the one that is like, you know, the sports socks, where she had to, she was trying to put it on her mom's foot. And then you'll be seeing her struggling to put it right, but the mom did help her a little bit. And while videoing her, because it's supposed to be her homework to show her teacher. And then after some attempts, she'll be like, you know, like lying on her mom's leg. And then she'll continue a bit more and then on her mom's leg again. Then I was thinking, I think she must be very tired, you know, trying to pull the socks up. So it's this little things in education of learning the teachings, as well as learning how to love your parents, from like bringing drinks and warm tea for your mom and dad, and helping them to prepare the slippers the right way. So as they enter the door, they get it. And listening and helping parents with housework. So these little things of education that we feel if an individual learns to do it from young, they'll be also learning about giving, being selfless, and you know, contributing to the people around them. And also the most important thing is learning to be grateful, because when we are able to put in efforts, we will be able to appreciate how much kindness and how much hard work our parents and those around us are putting in to give us what we have, and not just like everything is handed to us and not working hard for it. So that's one part of the education part. And we were learning in Buddhism as well, the core of love, again, is that central of family and loving our parents, elders, and people around us. So for Venerable Master, he had 2 projects. Do we still have 5 minutes? Oh, 5, okay, thank you. So we have 2 projects, which I have to make it like fast forward a bit. One is helping the children, like starting from young, we call the 1 through train education, from like toddlers all the way to university. And also, which is what we are doing at Mingde at the Westbrook Center. That's about 20 people, students at the international school at the moment. And so it's from young to old. And the next project that our teacher talks about, which we hope that more in the community could do, is the seniors' place, like a home for seniors, like a paradise, where we were talking about to Sister Veronica as well. And the project that they are doing at the Abbey, I felt was very similar to what we hope to achieve in the future, about learning to be independent, sustainable, elderly people living life, based on their faith and love, finding meaning in their existence, as well as being able to share their knowledge and experience with the community. So there might be someone who say, I love gardening, can I come and learn it from you? Or I learned to sing, can you teach me how to sing? So the elderly is made to feel useful because they have skills, experiences that the young people coming to them will have, have different classes, and then there'll be farming projects and all the different things that hobbies and elders can enjoy. So while they are teaching, they are enjoying their hobbies, and then we have the faith where we are preparing for the stage of our life where, at the end of this life, we can go leave this world and say, I'm ready to go, whether it's God or the Buddha, we say, I'm ready to leave this world, and then we go. So this is what teacher have shared with us for so many years. So the education part, we feel that every community or race, we all have our traditional teachings of filial piety, love, respect, and trustworthiness, and so on, that can be nurtured from young, and that if more of such classes can be done for all our own groups of young people, I'm sure many can be healed from this. And how to heal the world, we like to quote Greg Braden's. He had given an example of how if you have 0.01% of a population, and the square root of that number of people will be able to heal the problems, or to help that part of the country to heal. So let's say in Toowoomba we have 160,000 people. So you divide by 100 and you square root of that. It only takes 40 people in Toowoomba, like-minded, very focused, thought, feeling, emotion of peace and love, feeling that every day. Then in Toowoomba and beyond, the healing effect will take place. And so if for the whole world, I remember the number was about 7,700 or something, but we rounded off to 8,000 people. So if there are people of faith or those who believe in the human values, and all of us work and think peace and love, then I'm sure we should have 8,000, right, around the world. And so the world will begin to heal in that way. So focusing on education, working with the seniors with their experiences and wisdom, and then, that togetherness of thinking peace and love and compassion, that will start to heal the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Next on our list is our late stand-in, who very gallantly said that she would jump into the fray. So, Doctor, please carry on.
Thank you. Thank you. I should say thank you to Shannon, who everyone sees is on the program that's not here, for making space for me. I will message him personally and say thank you in a nice way. I'll just introduce myself for those who don't know me. So my name's Uma. I am a local GP here in Toowoomba. I was born and bred in Geelong, Victoria, so if everyone knows Geelong. Bigger town than Toowoomba, so I don't know what generation it makes me, but I'm sure Dylan will tell me. I was born in the 1970s. I shouldn't reveal too much more than that. Gen X, I'm a Gen X. Okay, thank you. It depends on the day. Okay, Gen X, I'll go with that. So for those people in the 1970s, you know, so in Geelong, let's just say it wasn't a very diverse, you know, population. There would have been 4 other coloured families in the whole town. And so it was a very interesting time. And we were trying, and so that's the White Australia policy, if anyone knows that policy, that was there. So we were non-white people trying to be very white, which is very difficult. So my parents were very wonderful. And as you can see, I'm Hindu with my outfit, which is because I went out for a lunch in between and came back, so it's not intentional. It just worked out that way. But my parents were, so as Hindus, because we couldn't be out there and be very open about how we practiced, my parents taught us Hinduism as in a very subtle way. It was not ritualistic. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm actually not angry to be born in that time, in that place, because my parents were able to deliver me my religion in the spirit of it, the teachings of it, but not the rituals. And I think this has really helped me a lot in connecting with other people. So if I meet people of other religions, I'm just like, oh yeah, I get that, because really the core of all religions is the same. You know, the way our language may be different and our rituals may be different, but it's all the same. And even if you aren't religious, if you meet someone who says, I'm an atheist, they still believe in those core things, which is, you know, love, compassion, taking care of your neighbours. It's very universal kind of beliefs. So I'm very thankful that I was put in that position where I was not, you know, I guess drowned in rituals. And if anyone knows about Hinduism, there's a lot of rituals. There's a lot of superstitions, and I love them. I'm not saying I deny them, but my experiences brought me into this. And so luckily, on top of that, so obviously I'm not a ritualistic person, I'm also part of an organisation called Heartfulness Institute. So this is an institute which is international, which is a yogic philosophy, but not religious. And I think I love this organisation so much, hence I volunteer for it quite a lot, in that it has a philosophy, and it comes to this idea of healing the world, that you're looking for what is common amongst ourselves. So we're trying to look beyond the diversity. So the people that we come across are from different countries, different religions, different beliefs, but we can come, and basically a lot of the activities we do is, you know, meditation. So in that silence, you're able to connect with people. And I find that beautiful, because that's the commonness of us all, is being able to come to one place and be together. And I really love that philosophy, because really I think it's a human mind where we are a little bit like computers. We meet someone and we kind of get a bit of information, and then we want to put them in a category to put in our brain. So it's like, okay, this person, I've got to make up a kind of an example. I'm winging this one, as you can all tell. So, you know, say this person is, you know, from, I don't know, Darwin. Obviously, they love crocodiles and, you know, going to Middle Beach markets. So I've automatically made a stereotype on this person, because, and that's what the brain likes to do. But I think what we need to do, if we're thinking about healing the world, is getting rid of our own definitions of people, you know, not making a stereotype of people. We really don't know anyone's story. And I think that helps, because the minute you can see that there's a common link between you and me, whoever it may be, even if they are from a very different background, it helps break down a lot of barriers in our mind, in our heart, and in our communication as well. So looking for the commonness is probably one of the things that helps us heal people. And I should also bring that back to the fact that, you know, in my professional life, so I was talking about my spiritual, but in my professional life, it's really hard because I don't get to choose who walks through the door. My only thing is, the common link is I'm there to help someone heal, and they've come in because they want to heal. So number one, we're on a common ground. And then it has to go a little bit deeper. If you want real success, I always find you have to look for more, like a bigger connection. So if a mum comes in with a sick child, the minute I can be like, right, I know what your night was like because I've done this before, it helps them feel better. You know, so you have to look at what connects you both deeper, and then that's where the outcomes start getting bigger. And so I've noticed a lot of mums just want to hear, oh, your kid's okay. And then when they hear it from someone else who knows what it's like to have a kid who's been crying all night, who's been runny noses and all those kind of things, that's part of the healing. So I think the second bit is what I've learned a lot in heartfulness is, and I think Shirley Ann had talked about this in the earlier session, is take care of yourself to take care of other people. So, you know, that aeroplane example of put the mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. So really you have to learn to first work on yourself and first heal yourself. Because I'm sure a lot of us have, I don't know, trauma, injuries, anger, guilt, whatever it is. So really, if you want the world to heal, you have to do it yourself and be an influence or an inspiration to the next person. Now, it sounds really small, but I think even Venerable said you only need 40 people in Toowoomba to do it. We've got more than 40 people here. Is that if I can show how I heal myself, if I can show how I progress, how I become a better person, I hope 5 other people can pick that up and they take that and do it their own way, not do it my way, do it their own way, but gives them the strength to do it. And then if they can do 5 other people, so we can imagine exponentially it will grow. And I don't think there's one model. I think this is why it's so difficult. There's not one size fits all. We all have to find it in ourselves. We cannot be someone else. We can't live their experience, their story, or even learn how they improve themselves. We can just be, you know, inspired. So I think this whole, even, you know, I always talk about these peace conferences, I always walk away better because I always talk to people who are absolutely inspiring. So that actually gives me the energy to walk away and do something. The key thing is you walk out the door, I think you have to make a promise to yourself that you will use that energy and do something. And even if that is just is something as small as helping your neighbour take their bins out because they're struggling, it's still an impact. There's a ripple effect. The other neighbours are watching you and they'll realise, oh, I know someone who's struggling with mowing their lawn. That small act, and as the kids will say, the youth always says, you know, small acts of kindness, they do make a big impact, and they reinforce your need to keep on growing and keep on changing and be part of the healing. Because we're always talking about, let's talk to the council, let's talk to our government, ask them to do it. I think we're being unrealistic. I think we have to do it ourselves. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our final speaker will be John Walker. Off you go, John.
Okay, thank you very much, friends. Look, I had prepared a small PowerPoint presentation. I didn't realise we'd be all sitting in the front here. I'm just wondering, can I control the PowerPoint from the front? Okay, thank you very much. I might just grab my computer. Just got to log into the computer. Well, friends, it's a great pleasure to be here with you this afternoon in in the company of such distinguished people, as well as all of the people here in Toowoomba who are devoted really to peace. And just building on the comments by Venerable Wu Chin, the idea that, you know, a very small number of people can have a huge effect. In a way, we are like the leaven in a lump of bread. You don't need very much leaven to make the bread rise. You just need a very small amount, but it has an amazing effect. And it actually, you know, is essential for the bread to rise. So we are, in a sense, like the leaven in the lump of humanity. And we are, you know, it's our influence that will lead to not only peace in our local community, in our neighbourhood and our nation, but also throughout the entire world. And, you know, when I look at this image of the world that is projected up here, I don't see, you know, no matter how hard I try, I can't see a border between Israel and Palestine, or between the Gaza. I can't find a border between Ukraine and Russia. You know, where is it? You know, if you look at it from this perspective, these borders are really man-made constructions, aren't they? They are not anything that reflects the reality of us all as human beings on this planet. So, you know, I'd just like to tell you a little story. Coming back again to Wu Chin's idea and the Confucian idea that, you know, it begins with the individual, goes to the family, unity, the nation, and then world unity. Well, let me tell you about the secret of my own success, my wife and I, our family, our unity, our success. Many people have asked us, we've been married for 56 years. She's from India, Zoroastrian background. I'm from Australia, Christian background. How did we manage to make a success of our marriage and become unified? And you know, the real success was that she devotes herself and makes all the decisions about the unimportant things. And I make all the decisions about the important things. Okay. Now some people have asked me, well, what are the unimportant things? And I tell them, well, look, she makes the decisions about what house we buy, how we furnish it, our diet, the well-being of the family, the children, making a house a home and welcoming everybody into it, and unifying the whole atmosphere of the home. This is her job. And then people say, well, you know, they seem to be pretty important decisions. What do you do? And I say, well, look, I focus on world peace, climate change, the Palestine-Israeli problems, the Russian-Ukraine war, the United Nations. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. So if we could go to the next slide. The next slide. Okay, I'm even struggling with world peace. Okay, so now if we talk about healing the world, this of course implies that there is a problem, that we have an illness. Well, this has been, you know, many people today have talked about some of the illnesses, and Venerable Wu Chin, who opened our conference, listed a number of the problems that the world today is facing. Well, we know that there are many problems in the world, and we can define what are some of the symptoms of this illness. But can we accurately diagnose the disease? That's the thing. Do we actually know what is the fundamental disease that we are suffering from? And if we had more time, it would be interesting to go around and ask everybody here, what do they really think is the fundamental disease that humanity suffers from. We have a doctor here on my left. If a person has a disease, she has to go through a routine of diagnosis to determine what is the cause of the disease, what it is in the first place, what is the cause, and then prescribe some sort of a remedy. Well, you know, she has a vision of what a healthy human being is, and that healthy human being is a fully integrated, fully harmonised and fully balanced person, physically at least, and perhaps mentally and spiritually as well. And when all of that is in perfect balance, then the person is healthy. But when you know, something is not functioning, and the heart is fighting with the lungs and the liver and or there is a cancer in the body, then there is a disharmony in the system, and that has, in some way, that has to be dealt with. And in a way, we could say that perhaps one of the fundamental problems that we face is the lack of unity in the world. This lack of unity, you know, if a human being lacks this unity, then they are sick. Similarly, the entire world is suffering from the disease of disunity. Now, can we prescribe a remedy or a range of remedies to deal with this problem? Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, said, "That which the Lord hath ordained as the sovereign remedy and mightiest instrument for the healing of all the world is the union of all its peoples in one universal cause, one common faith." Now, this seems highly altruistic, doesn't it? It seems totally beyond the capacity of the human race to achieve this. In fact, some would say, well, look, it's not really desirable to have everybody have one faith and one religion. But let's imagine the world in 5,000 years from now. What has been the major force in the development of civilization in the past? It has been religion. This is the force that has unified societies, led to the creation of civilization. And if we are going to have a world civilization, I mean, we're at the stage where we have the power to completely destroy ourselves. We spend $1.6 billion a minute on armaments. 1.6 billion a minute on armaments. I mean, this is incredible. If we could release all of those resources for the benefit of the human race, just imagine we could deal with climate change overnight, because we do have all the technologies necessary to be able to do that. It's just that we don't have the will or the money. But we've got 1.6 billion being spent on armaments. So one of the major problems is dealing with this enormous waste of resources that doesn't lead anywhere except the killing of people. And you might say, well, look, that's not as important as climate change. You know, if the right triggers are pulled, we could destroy ourselves in half an hour. The Russians could put a submarine off New York that would unleash a hydrogen bomb on New York, completely destroy that city in 10 minutes. That's how close we are to absolute destruction. Now, all of the other problems that we face, in a sense, are minuscule compared with the potential destruction that can cause. And you could say that while the long-term future of humanity has to be a completely unified world, recognising the essential oneness and harmony and universality of the human race, and that must be translated into institutions that enable us to govern a world like that, then that is a long-term goal. But in the short term, what we need is to get rid of these armaments and to get rid of the enormous expenditure and waste of expenditure that lead to. I mean, if you have an arms race, more and more money is spent on it. And that's where we're heading in many respects. And so, of course, this concept of one religion is based on an idea that really there is only one religion, that all the great religions of the world are simply reflections of the one educative impulse released by God into the world through his chosen prophets and messengers. So there is, in that sense, you could say there's only one religion now, and all the prophets have taught it, each according to the needs and requirements of the age in which they appeared. Their central teachings are the same. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love, compassion, mercy, justice, kindness. This is the foundation of all religions, but they have different laws related to the needs and requirements of the age and the cultures in which they appeared. But now we are moving towards a world civilization, a world culture, not a national culture or a local or a tribal culture, but a world civilization. And for that, we need to recognize that there is only one God and one religion, and all the prophets have taught it. And we are now moving towards a new stage of human evolution where all the peoples of the world will be seen as the citizens of one country. As Baha'u'llah says, the earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. Ye are all the leaves of one tree and the fruits of one branch. So that is the central sort of concept that, from a Baha'i perspective, we are working towards. But in the short term, we need to, Baha'u'llah said, look, if you reject the most great peace is the unification of all peoples and the establishment of a universal faith. That's the most great peace, which is the promise of all religions, that a time will come when all humanity will be fully united. But if we reject that, and if we can't accept that now, the first step is to abolish war. Because until we abolish war, we cannot release all of the resources necessary to move to that second stage. And secondly, we don't want to wipe ourselves out before we can establish that second stage. That's the big danger that we face. So this, Baha'u'llah referred to this as the lesser peace. He said, now that ye have rejected the most great peace, cling ye to the lesser peace, that you might benefit yourselves and others, and at least preserve the human race in order that it might move towards that higher stage of evolution and unity. Okay, so basically that's it. We can talk about the details. We can discuss, you know, how do you solve the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and we can go for hours and never be able to solve that problem.
We're going to have to wind that up at this stage, but
Okay,
thank you very much.
So anyway, that's a brief contribution to this discussion.
So we've heard some very interesting talks from everyone. The sort of common theme I get is acceptance. Is that what we need is acceptance in this world. If we can accept other people, accept other beliefs, accept other traditions, we can bring peace. We can move all these things that are going wrong and put them into a more peaceful thing. So I'll ask you all to give our panel a great clap. We do have 4 minutes for questions. I would say that we'll go for questions rather than statements at this stage. As long as it is a question and you're not just framing it. Wait till we get a microphone. I'm coming.
Okay, thank you. My question is, any of you, which one of you, when you were in your mother's womb, told your mother where to go and give birth, which country of the world? Did any of you say that to your mom in the womb? No. So when you came to the world, wherever your mom was, you came, you are a world citizen. The whole world is yours. You didn't ask your mother to go and give birth. So this was what I was going to say. And I did ask the question as well. So we are all we are world citizens. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
I'm sure some of the prophets of the past would say that they selected where they were going to be born. Do we have any more questions? Everyone's exhausted, everyone's tired, everyone's processing all the information they've got. Yes?
It seems to be just a little statement, but we are preaching to the converted. We need to clarify that Israel is not fighting Palestine, right? It's fighting the Hamas terrorist group in Gaza. Can the panel tell us how are we going to convince Hamas to believe all the things we've talked about today? Thank you.
And who is... That's a political question, so I would advise that you speak to the Hamas embassy and see what they've got to say. Any other questions?
Thank you. My question is, what can we do to bring the youth of Toowoomba together? I think if we can bring the youth of Toowoomba together in some type of commonality, we start with the young, and if we can guide and nurture them in peace and love and compassion, then I think we've got a good start, a good, continuing some good work. I think we need to potentially work more in that field, and I hear some of the speakers speak about some of the conferences and that, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But I think most of us seem to be over 20 years of age here as I look around. I think us older folk need to potentially think of what we can do to facilitate that. But if anyone wants to talk to me about that, I'm happy for you to come over because I've got some passion in this area. Any thoughts, panel?
So I'm under the age of 20, actually. I'm 17 in grade 11 at the moment. And I totally agree with you. I think over the years, there's been a lot of disengagement with young people just because of what I said obviously previously. A lot of them don't feel like their voice is heard and they don't have the opportunity to voice out their opinions. And so I think for the past few years, obviously Pearland Learning has been doing a lot of conferences. Toowoomba Regional Council has also been getting very, very involved. They're promoting through social media their youth group that they have. So it's just a year program where you get to choose an issue within the community. So for example, in Toowoomba, homelessness is a big issue. And so with that issue, the council has a funding of $15,000, and then you kind of separate that into the projects, and you initiate a project and kind of work through it. And a lot of these youth leaders have the chance to work with councillors, work with MPs, and kind of work together to get that engagement going. For me personally, I've been involved in different kind of levels of involvement, and through my involvement, I've always pushed for promoting more young people, especially from regional areas like Toowoomba. Like I was selected this year as a Toowoomba as a representative for the Toowoomba regional area in Youth Parliament as part of the Minister of Regional Development. And I think a big issue that we were trying to focus on is getting engagement from young people from the regions. And so we've been promoting a lot through social media, through our youth groups, and I think it's a process. And that process takes a while, but I think it's something that if we do work together, I totally agree, as community leaders, as youth advocates, we can definitely work toward that goal.
We can take one more question, then we have to start heading down the hill. Oh, we have a volunteer.
in the world, there are so many wars happening, but it is not for religion or anything. I think those countries are making weapon and they need to sell it. And when they sell it, and there is war everywhere. So we have to stop making weapon, and we have to reveal their face in the world.
That was more of a statement than a question, but the words of President Eisenhower come back to me. Not that he said them to me personally, but I read them on the internet, so they must be true. And that was not to let America become under the control of the industrial military complex, because if that takes over, then we will always be guaranteed to have war. So in response to a few of the comments tonight or this afternoon, we can't control people outside of our lives. We can only control the people who are in this room and who are in our purview. How do we do that? We show that we can live in peace and harmony. We show that we are compassionate. We share. We share the good times. We share the sad times. We grieve with each other. What's happening in the world at the moment is not nice. It is horrible. I saw this thing on Facebook that showed a couple of American, well, white Anglo people looking at a deceased baby saying, "What religion is it?" So we know whether to be upset or not. If you have to know who the child is to be upset, then you are part of the problem. Peace will come when we have peace in our hearts. And until that time comes, we're not going to have a good world. So, what do? We attend every prayer vigil, we go to every peace thing, we go and meet with our friends. I've had phone calls with people in the Islamic community all over Australia saying how, it's not a good thing. If you can say that one side is to blame and the other isn't, also, you might be part of the problem. So, let's pray for peace. And as we say at the end of most of our Jewish prayers, O say shalom bimroma, you say shalom. Aleinu ve'yakol Israel v'yimru amen. May he who makes peace in the celestial heights bring peace to all the dwellers on earth. And let us say amen. I will now hand over.
Thank you. Thank you, Ari. Thank you to the panel too. Give them another round of applause. That was amazing. Well done. Thank you, people.